Hello everyone and welcome back to A Couple Books. This is Couple today and I've got a very exciting thing to show you guys today. Today we're going to be doing a LitRPG review. Before we get started, let us go into the author. This book is the debut novel of Peter John. Peter John is a fantastic man, extremely kind man, and he reached out to me to read his book and I gave it a chance. I'm very glad I did. I really enjoyed it. Peter John himself, he was born in Rhodesia, as I do believe how you pronounce it, and it is a country that no longer exists. He spent his formative years in South Africa during the times of civil war and civil unrest, where he learned a lot. And from there, he went into study zoology and as well spent quite a few years working in the veterinarian field. Currently, he is teaching English in the Far East, and with that is now writing books, which we are all very blessed to have his words be put on the page. So with that, let us get into his first book, which is going to be Genesis, which is the first book in the Abduction Chronicles. And I'm super excited to share this book with you guys today. And isn't that cover just so pretty? Such a pretty cover. But let's get into what the story is about. So the story follows retired Colonel Petros Arkansas, as I do believe how you pronounce it. He goes by Armpit throughout most of the story, so I will refer to him as Colonel Armpit because that is definitely more entertaining to say. Colonel Armpit is a man who is recently retired from the military, and he is enjoying his retirement sitting on the couch, becoming a couch potato. Unfortunately, this is not what the universe sees for him in the near future, and since this is a book that we are reading, we also know that this is not what we see for Colonel Armpit in the future as well. So, what happens? Well, he gets the most casual break in retirement by being abducted by aliens. Isn't that what we all dreamed of happening to one of us after retirement? I know, this is not just my own dream. So he gets abducted by aliens and he is taken to wherever, somewhere with these aliens, and from there he is thrown into these massive virtual simulations of these like treacherous environments. At the moment, as far as we know, with remaining spoiler free, the environments he's thrown into are all pretty much Earth similar environments such as swamps, snow-covered mountaintops, just like the treacherous areas that no one is supposed to be able to survive on their own, and he is tasked with one goal in mind, which is to survive. This book is a combination of quite a different elements. As you can tell, he's abducted by aliens. There you get a little bit of sci-fi. He is a former military man, and that comes in later to the story, therefore military sci-fi. In addition, there are aliens and alien abductions. Therefore, we have our standard sci-fi, and then we have some fantasy elements, and of course LitRPG and game lit components within this book. This is definitely a mixing pot of a lot of different genres, meaning that there's something in the story for everyone. Before we get more into my opinions though, let us get into the rest of the story. After he's abducted and is thrown into these environments, he meets a whole team of former military people from the United States of America and other countries spread throughout the world. They are a bunch of former spec op operatives and other people from the military branches that I am not familiar with, and they are basically all tasked with similar goals of surviving these simulations. And over time, main character Colonel Armpit, he joins a group of people just like him who've been kidnapped by the aliens, and they work together to basically stop some of the atrocities that are coming towards Earth. These are the most horrific creatures that you can pretty much imagine. It is basically Colonel Armpit's job and his friend's job to stop them from coming and destroying the Earth that we know it. That is pretty much all I can tell you guys without giving away too many spoilers. So with that, let us move on into some of my opinions about this book. In this book, in terms of story, the story is definitely a mixing pot. There's a lot of interesting things going on in the story. There's a lot of interesting people in this story, and it combines a lot of different elements from a lot of different genres, meaning that you are probably going to find something in here that is for you, whether it be lit RPG, game lit, aliens, military sci-fi, whether it be standard sci-fi. There's something in here for everyone. In terms of the story itself, Peter John does a fantastic job of interweaving all these different components into building this wonderful tapestry that is his book, Genesis, and he has comprised it and filled it with lots of interesting places, a lot of interesting situations, and honestly, I never was bored because there was always something new going on, and Peter John does not give you a second to sit back and breathe. He takes you through the story at a high speed, and you basically don't have a second to rest, which I personally enjoyed. I thought it was a lot of fun being on this adventure and seeing all these crazy things happening. Of course, the game lit RPG components such as the gaining levels and the gaining experience, which are all super fun to see happening within the story. The story is not as focused on those components as I've seen in my previous LitRPG enjoyments, so that is neither here nor there. It's just something I noticed, that there is much less focus on that, but there's so many different components going on in the story, it makes perfect sense. There's almost too much material to cover in this story, and there just wasn't time for it all. Now, in terms of the characters themselves, Colonel Armpit was absolutely fantastic. I really enjoyed watching the story take place from his eyes. I enjoyed everything about it. I enjoyed his personality. I thought that there was a lot of growth for him as a character. Unfortunately, with that being said, I did not feel the same about the other characters that we had alongside us for the journey. There were a slew of characters. We meet Sarah very early on. We meet his team that he spends most of the remainder of the book with, and they were all great characters, and they all had interesting facets to their personalities, making them thus unique and giving them different tones. However, I did feel that we didn't spend enough time with them. I really left the story feeling like I only gained a lot of information about Colonel Armpit and did not really learn much about the other characters, except for one other being Raoul, is I do believe how you pronounce it, and I feel like that is possibly a point that was a little upsetting to me and could be a little upsetting to other people who are picking up this book. But I do believe that there is a lot of characters for us to meet in later installments within the series. So with characters and the story out of the way, let me talk about some of the particulars that I did not enjoy about this book so much. So I really enjoyed the story. This is not to say I didn't enjoy it at all, but I do wish, like I said, we spent more time with the characters. I do also wish that there was a little more focus and cohesion brought into the lore of the world. There were so many components going on. I wish I had more of an understanding. There is a particular group of people that the author does spend a decent amount of time giving us the lore and the history on, which I really enjoyed that, and I thought it was really strong to the story. And they do glimpse backs into some of the history, but I felt like a lot of it was a slightly bit info dumping, and therefore I kind of got distracted and pulled out of the story a bit while learning about these races and learning about the different aspects of the storyline. But without going too much into spoilers, I just wanted to say that I really would have wished to have had more time with some of the different elements of the storyline that were happening while Colonel Armpit is learning to become the best soldier possible out there. Now, with that aside, I do believe that this is a wonderful debut novel. I really think that there are strong elements here. There's strong story elements. There's a strong character to shoulder these elements on. The world building is lacking, but I also believe that the fact is the world is too complex to really dive into world building yet. But I look forward to future installments of this series, and I really enjoyed it overall. I thought it was a great time. If you guys would like a more in-depth review of what I'm saying, what I've been talking about here, be sure to check out my Goodreads review on this book. Overall, really enjoyed it. I think that it is definitely worth picking up for those of you who do not mind having a different kind of take on a lot of our favorite genres, such as military, sci-fi, and fantasy, and lit RPG. There's a lot of different components going on in this book, and if you guys are down, I think it's worth picking up. It's definitely the oddest book I've ever read in the lit RPG space. It does not mean that it's a bad book in the slightest. It was very much an enjoyable reading experience. It was odd in some ways, but I think that Peter John did a fantastic job of combining these different elements and building us quite a story and quite a race to keep up with, and I enjoyed it immensely. So I'd recommend this to anyone who is looking for something fresh and new, anyone who's into lit RPG and is kind of tired of the standard. This is definitely unique. This is definitely a different take on it. For any of those who are interested in sci-fi or military sci-fi and are looking for something fresh and unique, this is also here for you. I believe that it takes quite a few of the best components of a lot of these different genres and combines them into one space. So overall, I have to say I enjoyed the book, and I would recommend it to quite a few people. I don't think this book's going to be for everyone at the end of the day, but that is not meaning you shouldn't at least give it a try. It was a quick read. It's not too long, I promise you guys. So give it a chance if you feel like it. If you guys don't feel like it, then be sure to watch out for Peter John's future works, as I do believe that he is going to keep growing and keep becoming a stronger author in the future. And my dog apparently also agrees with me. So with that, thank you guys all so much for joining me here today. This has been Couple from A Couple Books, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the future.